Okay, so this is the start of our photos that we took on our Camino walk last year. So it's about a year since we started out in our walk. For those that don't know what we did, we flew over to Spain and we walked an ancient pilgrim route called the Camino de Santiago. So we walked from the south of France over the Pyrenees to a town called Santiago de Compostela, where Christians believe the remains of St. James the Apostle are located. Around about September of the year before, I'd never even heard of the Camino de Santiago, and then Lynn watched a movie on TV, and I think that was the start of...
Yeah, called The Way.
Yeah, and how did that come about?
Well, I watched the end of it actually to begin with, and it drew my attention. And so I watched the whole thing through and thought to myself, I think Michael would like this. But it took a bit of convincing for you to actually watch it. I think he thought it was a chick flick.
Yeah, and it was one of those movies where you watch the last 10 minutes or middle 10 minutes and then eventually you sat down and watched it. And for a long time we'd been thinking about doing something that really challenged us. We'd seen television programs where people go beyond what they normally do, and we originally thought we might be able to go to Europe and do 100 kilometres of this and see whether we could do it. But we went onto the YouTube and investigated and convinced ourselves that if we practiced and prepared we could do the whole thing. So we signed up to do our 800 kilometre walk.
And then we had things along the way that we were determined that we would try and see and do like what was on the movie.
Yeah, and you'll see and hear us talk of those as we go through. So on the day after Anzac Day 2014, we flew to Barcelona in Spain via Dubai, a couple of train rides, and arrived in a little town in the south of France called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. Most of our research had led us to believe that given it was spring in this part of the world, it would be warm to hot. So we took pretty much clothing accordingly. Arrived in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and it was cold, wet, miserable. And have to say a lot of our Camino was cold and damp. Yeah, some warm weather, but a lot more cold and damp than we imagined.
You'll see it's quite deceiving because on a lot of the photos there looks to be beautiful clear skies, but there was a very strong wind a lot of the time that was very cold, and in the mornings, for example in Lyon, when we walked out of Lyon it was 3 degrees.
So look, once you start walking you soon warm yourself up, but it was just not what we expected. So the first lot of photos you're going to see is the start of our journey. Worth us saying that we prepared for this by researching, going into camping shops.
For the first time.
Yeah, we'd never done this before. Never slept in a sleeping bag.
Till our first night.
Yeah, so we were a novice to this. Started out by walking around Cordeaux Heights. Luckily we've got lots of hills where we live. Started out at 1k, then 3k, and then settled into 3 or 4 times a week we'd walk 7k, and then on quite a number of weekends we'd go down to North Beach and we walked 12k.
As it got closer to the time.
And then 25k, and then 25k with our backpack until we convinced ourselves we'd be fine. We live near Mount Kembla. We think it's fairly high. It's 600 metres above sea level. Day one of our Camino we walked a mountain pass over the Pyrenees. It's 1200 metres, and our first day took 27 kilometres.
9 hours.
9 hours in the cold, mist and wet. I vowed never again. I actually don't know how we did it. We limped into Roncesvalles, the town in Spain. We couldn't walk another step. We really, both of us looked at each other and said, that's the end. We'll no way we'll be able to walk tomorrow. But managed to find the local bar, a few glasses of Spanish wine, and we felt good. The sun poked through, warmed us a little bit, and seriously, the next day we got up and we were fine.
Fine, yeah.
Yeah, so...
that gave us a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, it was the hardest start to a journey. So over to the photographs now. You're going to see a little bit of that. Maybe just, we met lots of really lovely people along the way. That very first night when we stayed in Roncesvalles, we stayed in the old monastery. Normally people stay in the new monastery and the old one's closed. There were so many people walking on that May
Public holiday.
They had to open the old monastery. And even then it filled up. So it was really busy. We met a young lady, Julia, from Italy. She was walking the Camino with her dog Argo. So many places they wouldn't allow her to stay. So that night in the cold and the mist, having walked 27 kilometres, she slept in a tent on the oval with a dog.
And got very wet.
Yeah, but she had tea with us, and we've remained friends ever since. She's a lovely young lady.
You'll see photos of her along the way.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's more photos of Argo
Yes.
and than there is of Julia, but she kind of knew that would happen. Okay, so I think onto our first set of photographs, and this is the start of our journey.